I, 21 female, know I am not innocent in this, but I don't think it's my fault if that makes sense. Sister Leah, 24, has two toddlers with different fathers who aren't in her kids' lives. 2 months ago, I started going to my mom's house every day because she had fallen and broken her hip. Before the accident, my mother watched Leah's kids almost daily, despite asking her almost daily to find alternate care. After the broken hip, it seemed like she did, until one day I showed up, and these little kids were playing in the living room while my mother was out cold on pain medicine in the bedroom. She has no idea they were even there. This is where our first rift happened. I stepped up and started watching her kids most afternoons. One day I told her I couldn't watch them because I had an appointment, which afterward I went to my mom's and boom, the same situation happened. I confronted her and we got into a yelling match. She told me I shouldn't yell at a pregnant lady. This is where I lost it. 'Cause pregnant? I said some awful things. She is selfish to bring a baby when she's broke. She doesn't even watch her kids 60% of the time, which I guess neglect is why she had time to get pregnant. She asked me to pay her utility bill last month. How can she afford another mouth to feed when she can't even keep the lights on? You live on government subsidies. Don't say you take care of your babies. We all technically do. Mom was your main child care, and she's in recovery from a broken hip. Who do you think is going to watch this baby? If I ever show up again and your kids are at mom's without notice, I'll call the cops. Those are a few things I remember I said. I said a little more too in a rant-style fashion. Then she stormed out with her kids and went no contact with me specifically. Well, I was watching her kids 5 to 6 days a week at this point. I missed them, but I figured that she finally stepped up and found alternate childcare. It turns out she didn't. Her kid was playing in the snow with barely any clothes on. Neighbors came out and saw them and called the police. She has left both her kids unsupervised at her house while she went to dinner with her boyfriend. She went to jail, made bail, awaited trial for her charges, and the kids went to CPS. My mother and I both tried, but we could not take it on as their caretakers. It's super frustrating and super sad. Now everyone's anger is turning towards me, saying it's my fault because of our fight. So what if we never fought? I'd still be watching the kids almost every day. Even my mom is starting to lash out. I know the stress of not having certainty over the position of her grandkids is getting to her. I feel horrible, but I also think it's not my fault CPS got involved. Like, why pregnant when you don't even watch the kids you have? Why would I want to babysit when you're not even working, just going out having fun? Like, why would you leave little kids home alone? Why would you go no contact with your helping hand because you're mad, but have no other options? I don't understand it at all. Why are her bad decisions my fault? I love my niece and nephew, and I don't want them to resent me when this is all over. I also don't want to accept blame for this. They say I kicked my sister when she was already down, and the punishment doesn't fit the crime, that I need to apologize. Your sister is reckless and irresponsible. It sounds like CPS involvement was inevitable. Why couldn't they and everyone babysit instead? What was stopping them from doing so? Not in town or in state? Then they don't get a voice in this. Too busy? So was OP. Was sick, recovering, or taking care of someone who was? Exactly OP's and mom's situation. Yes, you are not guilty, and anyone who says otherwise is wrong. So everyone suddenly somehow assumes it's your job or responsibility? Nope. I don't know where they got that idea, but no. You literally stepped in to cover for her and your mother without being asked and without any gratitude from her. You are not CPS or the court. If a mother neglects her kids so badly that CPS takes them away and the court jails her, she must be really, really bad. They only do that as a last resort when the mother is quite literally criminally negligent, and that's nobody's fault but her own. You and her neighbor are the heroes of this story. Agree, this all falls on your feckless sister, and don't let anyone tell you otherwise. It's really sad for the kids, but there's nothing for you to do at this stage. Don't be guilted into taking on their care full time, no matter how much you may feel you should. Unless you are financially stable and have a big enough property of your own and can hire full-time childcare, you aren't a suitable guardian either, nor is your mother, I'm afraid. I'm 25 male. I was with my now ex for a year and a half. It happened 4 days ago. I'm really into fitness. I love being in shape and improving like that. My girlfriend developed some issues with weight. It kept getting worse. She's 200 pounds now. She didn't like it. She would always complain about her stretch marks and fat rolls, always point it out and say how it made her feel ugly. They were all solvable issues. If I'm being totally honest, it was affecting me too. I didn't tell her this, but I didn't want to have intimacy with her anymore. I felt a bit uncomfortable when we did, because I didn't find it attractive at all. As I figured that she didn't want the weight, I tried to help her. I tried to get her to come and work out with me, go on hikes with me, dog walks, runs, home workouts, anything. I phrased it as it's something I wanted to get into as a couple because it's something that I love and want her to be involved with, which is true. She refused every time, said I was pressuring her, said the only way she'd lose the weight is through netball, and she'll do it then. She'll only do something she enjoys. That's fine. I waited a long time for that, and eventually she did it. She moved 4.5 hours away for the next year and joined a netball team, which she promptly quit after a week. I understand why she quit, but I found it really frustrating. I was already struggling with how she had moved 4.5 hours away from me when she could have been closer, and honestly, I got upset. I pretty much said to her, I was really frustrated that she quit, and if she didn't want to exercise or get involved in that with me in any way, shape, or form for the next years, it was going to be an issue for me. Personally, I felt she was no longer making the effort I needed, and she was now hours away. Well, now I've been dumped, and I'm devastated. She said she still loves me, but with the distance and now this, it's too much. There's no hard feelings. I still love her. She still loves me. But I'm now left with this horrible, horrible feeling of never being able to see her again and not having her around. I still deeply care about her. How do you get over this sort of regret? I feel terrible about it, but I had to say something for the sake of the relationship, didn't I? This has been going on for about 11 months, with loads of broken promises. I was desperately hoping it would just resolve itself, but it was getting harder and harder. I'm not a terrible person, am I? She must be pretty short then or something, because being around the 200-pound mark is a pretty average and relatively healthy body type for a lot of women, not on the short spectrum. Are you specifically bugged by her weighing more than you? Like if she toned up and gained muscle mass and was still heavier than you, would that have still been an issue? Not attacking. I've just noticed a trend in my personal life of some men being almost offended when they aren't the heavier of the couple. She chose to move nearly 5 hours away, which says to me that likely she was ready to call it quits, and so she did. Like you said, she still loves you, but neither of you are in love. You can care about each other, but it was not enough. Whether her depression and complaining and your encouragement had a part, maybe the lack of attraction could be. You can navel gaze about this forever, but now is the time to accept and move forward. I hate to bring bad news, but she let you down gently. There were almost certainly hard feelings on her end. You're completely valid in your preferences, but think about it from her perspective. Your ex has a weight problem that makes her feel unattractive, and then you validated her low self-esteem by suggesting the exercise and commenting that she needs to lose weight for the relationship to work. My husband and I are both pretty responsible, self-sufficient people. If either of us ever forgets something or makes a mistake, we take responsibility for it ourselves instead of blaming the other person for not reminding us. That is something that's really important to me in a relationship, because when I was younger, I had a string of relationships where I started feeling more like my boyfriend's mom than equal. I fell into the roles of reminding them to keep up with their studies, getting them up out of bed in the morning for work, reminding them of their social commitments, keeping track of their vehicle maintenance schedule, and picking up the slack with household chores, etc. It's so refreshing to have a relationship where my husband is like, if I sleep in, it's my darn fault. Or if I don't have clean undies because I didn't put them in the laundry basket, I don't have clean undies. A husband who takes responsibility for his share of the household chores and his social calendar. And he also finds it refreshing to have a relationship dynamic where I never bother him about stuff that he has handled. I trust him to have his act together, and don't nag. For example, he'd much rather deal with the annoyance of having to call a locksmith once a year than the annoyance of his girl asking him daily, "Did you remember your keys?" And I feel a lot less burdened, not expecting to take on that extra mental load. It might sound cold, but it works for us, and it has made our relationship a lot happier and healthier. The trouble is when we visit his mom. His mom is the more overbearing type, and I feel like she expects me to do the same. So she's always asking me to do stuff like remind him that he's got to pick up the gifts for a friend's birthday, make sure he wears his warm gloves and hat when going outside to do yard chores, remind him to add air to the car tires, make sure he has all his things before we leave after visiting. It's kind of stressful because that is not our dynamic. I told her that a while ago, kind of gently saying, "He's a big boy. I'm sure he'll get his hat if he's cold." Or, "I don't keep track of where he puts his things. I'm sure he can find them, / remember to get them if they matter to him." And she's taken that kind of badly and made some passive-aggressive comments about how a relationship should be a partnership, how I'm coming across selfish, etc. Stuff that makes me feel like she doesn't think I'm good enough for him. She's also doubled down on asking me to do stuff like this, and I've started saying I don't want to be his mommy, and even pretty bluntly saying that having to act like someone's mommy completely turns me off them. So trust me, it's better for both him and me if I don't. Saying that last thing really upset her. She said that it doesn't seem like I was ready for an adult partnership, and we'd gotten married way too soon. Am I the idiot for what I said to my mother-in-law about not wanting to mother my husband? LMAO, her definition of being ready for an adult relationship is pampering and indulging her precious son. So, not the idiot, sweetie. OP, tell your husband to steer his mom back into her lane. After that, just ignore her. Restrict her visits and communication until she gets the picture. Not the idiot. You might want to try a different approach with your mother-in-law, though. She's from a different generation, and her expectations of men are likely based on her own marriage and her own upbringing. I recommend that you start praising her son in front of her. Tell her how lucky you are that you found this wonderful son that she raised. Tell her what an amazing job she did raising a son who treats his partner as an equal versus many men who expect their wives to baby them. Then tell her again that you are so grateful for how she raised her son to treat women as equals. Ugh, I know you're right, and I agree that this is a great approach, but the idea of OP having to kiss butt this woman is nauseating. Mother-in-law doesn't think that OP is a good enough wife for not fulfilling her wifely duties of reminding her husband how to breathe every day. I think this needs to be a convo between mother-in-law and OP's husband, and he needs to tell her to stop. Yesterday, my 32 male, wife 31, our 2 kids, and some extended family went for a walk in the mountains. I say walk instead of hike because there were several trails that didn't involve actually having to hike. All went well until we stopped at a rest spot. My wife is 5 months pregnant and is damn well determined to keep active before she gets too exhausted to do so. The rest spot only had one small bench to sit at, to stop and rest for a minute, and the family, except myself, my wife, and my father, all took turns sitting. My sister, 20 female, sat down for a few minutes with our daughter while everybody got pictures, and I asked her if she could stand up because my wife's back was bothering her. My sister refused. Just to make it clear, she has no back issues, leg injuries, chronic pain, etc. She told me that if my wife's back hurt so bad, then she should have sat down first. My wife told her that she wanted to be polite and let everyone else go first. My sister said that your pregnancy isn't my problem, and our mom got the mom look on her face and told her to stand up, so she did. While my wife was sitting down, my sister came up to me and said that being an entitled victim wasn't a good look for my wife and I told her that she'd already had a few minutes and it was my wife's turn. She replied that it was unfair and that she really felt sorry for my kids, and I snapped at her and told her that it was her future kids that should be pitied. The group started moving on, so our argument was cut short, but now I can't stop thinking about it. I'm not going to bring it up with my wife because I don't want to upset her, but I can't stop wondering if we did act entitled. Everyone's the idiot here because this is where I'm lost. Your wife is pregnant, but when you got the rest spot, Everyone else took turns sitting down before her, and you waited till your sister sat down to tell her to get up. It's your wife's turn. I mean, if your wife is 5 months pregnant, why weren't you upset at the numerous people who sat down before your wife? Yeah, I agree with this. The sister was rude, but it doesn't make sense that they waited until literally the last person sat down for the pregnant woman to be able to sit. The sister also shouldn't have had to have a chronic disability to be tired and want to sit down. OP and his wife should have advocated for her to sit first, or at least earlier in the rotation. Did you read the story at all? Wife outright said that she wanted to be polite, and that is why she didn't ask to go first. The family took turns. Sister sat down for a few minutes, like everyone else, and then refused to let anyone else get their turn. The pregnancy isn't even the issue here. Everyone else was taking turns resting, and your sister refused. She sounds incredibly entitled and selfish. Isn't it like minimum politeness to offer a seat to a pregnant lady? Doesn't matter how fit she is or how unfit the rest are. When do we get to a point where people stopped being considerate of other family members who need a little extra consideration for a temporary condition? Any decent person without a physical disability would just plop their butt on the ground instead of using the only chair when there's a pregnant woman present. Getting up from sitting on the ground is a task for a pregnant person. I, 28 female, used to be quite overweight. However, over the last year or so, I've made many changes and have successfully lost almost 100 pounds. Unfortunately, I don't live close to my family, and I don't post on social media, so my family wasn't aware of my weight loss. I did mention that I was making healthier choices, but that's it. It's just that every time before that I've tried to lose weight, it hasn't worked out, so I didn't want anyone commenting on it. My sister, 26, got engaged last year, and I'm super happy for her. Unfortunately, due to the circumstances, the wedding had to be pushed back a little. It's happening a week from now, and because I haven't seen everyone in so long, I decided to come down 2 weeks earlier to help out and catch up. Well, when I came to see my family, my sister freaked out upon seeing me. As it turns out, she has gained a bit of weight, not super noticeable to me. She still looks great. But I think this is the first time in our lives that I'm smaller than her. I've always been the fat sister. She basically accused me of trying to upstage her, and my parents are fully taking her side. I'm not sure if I'm wrong here, as so many of my family are taking her side of things. Am I the idiot for losing weight before my sister's wedding? Wow, how dare you lose an amazing 100 pounds and decide to make healthier lifestyle choices? How dare you care for your health and make your insecure sister even more insecure due to her problems with vanity? What a monster. All ridiculousness aside, not the idiot. Your sister needs to get her head out of her back end before she starts choking on the stuff that she's so full of. I'm sorry you have to go through this, OP. Not the idiot. I suggest you simply say, I'm sorry my current appearance has ruined your wedding. I'll head back home now. Send photos. Then get on with your life. Sometimes I've seen it happen. Families get so entrenched in obesity and unhealthy habits that they are actually offended by friends or family members who choose a different path. The truth is they're as jealous as can be, but may not even realize that themselves. Is it possible your family has a bit to do with your weight loss not sticking in the past? Negative comments, bringing you unhealthy food, that kind of thing? I've seen this happen before with my sibling. That could be the real reason they're upset. They couldn't keep you where they wanted you. I'm so sorry that they aren't happy for you.